Welcome to the podcast. My guest today is Sean Karoonian, co-founder at TRUENORTH, a real estate and construction design company, a program advisor at Seneca College in Esports, and a marketing director at Geyser, a mobile gaming and esports platform. He is also an outstanding, captivating guest lecturer. But what is most interesting to me about Sean is how he uses LinkedIn. You know, Sean does more than just click like on posts, which is what most of us do. Sean's the guy who asks follow-up questions, and he responds to public requests for help. And he'll say if something is confusing to him, and he will even disagree with something that is being celebrated by hundreds of people online, something that many of us wouldn't dare do. I mean, we have our image to uphold, don't we? So I thought Sean would be an interesting person to talk to about being authentic online. Sean, when I'm on LinkedIn, I see marketing mavens. I see networking ninjas. I see advertising gurus. These are things that I don't think anyone would ever say about themselves out loud. Are these, for you, authentic self-descriptions?
What a great question. I mean, let's segue that immediately into the term digital marketing, for example. You know, another one of these labels that's just thrown out there. And to be quite honest with you right now, I feel that labels are labels. You know, let's use digital marketing as an example. I don't believe that digital marketing exists. You know, it's marketing period in a digital ecosystem. So the fact that you're a digital marketer to me actually doesn't mean anything other than a vanity kind of title to validate whatever it is that you wish to validate, you know? So I think the one thing I'm getting at with this comment is that labels don't mean anything. You know, we overuse them. There's an abundance of things, and what you say doesn't necessarily mean what I say, even if we use the same words. So it's actually the meaning of the acronyms. What does that truly mean? Because when I even say marketing, what does marketing mean to you? Does it mean social? Does it mean X? Does it mean Y? Does it mean Z? So the one thing I always love to do is like, let's strip the labels. Let's just cut through all the bullshit, for lack of better words, and let's get to the point, you know? Let's actually discuss the matter at hand and see what we can do together to solve whatever challenge it is that we're trying to solve. So labels, I don't buy into them.
And so for you, is that how you would describe being authentic? Is being conscious of the fact that we don't need to use labels? What does being authentic mean to you?
Let me preface this, John, by saying my answer is not the answer, okay? Like, this is just my opinion. It's my truth and what I believe in. And I think that in itself kind of answers the question to begin with in itself, in that there is no answer, or there is no solution, or what's the word I'm looking for? Equation for authenticity right now. It really is a case of just being yourself, you know, and speaking your truth, not being afraid to speak your truth. And the one like mode of thought that I subscribe to is that there is no such thing as universal truth. You know, what I believe in may be different to what you believe in, and so on and so forth. And we don't necessarily have to like that. We must respect it at a bare minimum, in my opinion. You know, we need to respect a difference of opinions and diversity and the range of thought that exists out there, but we don't need to subscribe to it necessarily, you know? So that's what I mean in terms of authenticity. Be yourself and don't be afraid. Like, just say it. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Well, I think there are some, especially if they are younger, new to the workforce, when they're being told a number of things, not the least of which is, you know, be the best version of yourself. Make sure you're paying attention to people around you. Of course, take good notes, do this, do that, keep up to speed with what's happening within your company and in your department, and be yourself, but also be careful about what you say. You have this idea of you being watched, and it may not be so easy for a young person, especially someone entering the workforce, to truly, as you say, be your true self in the workplace. What's your advice for squaring that? Again,
I feel I feel we're all performing every day, and we're all afraid at some basic level. You know, it's this. We all go through the same fears. You and I, we're both human. We're exactly the same. To say that we don't feel and behave the same way would be ridiculous, in my opinion. And the point I'm getting at with this as well is that not being yourself means not being afraid. And in order to not be afraid, it's about not being afraid to put your armor down, to say what it is that you want to say, for lack of fear of judgment, for lack of fear of people disagreeing with you, for example, you know, not being afraid to challenge the status quo. And I'll challenge what you said in a respectful way, in the sense that I don't subscribe to having to conform ever. You know, conformity for me is where your soul goes to die. It's not being able to be yourself. And if you ever have to basically just dress up in a monkey suit and have to do ABC to check boxes ABC, then that's the choice you've made, unfortunately, perhaps, where I would look at that and think, well, if you're being asked to jump through this hoop and do this and perform in a way that you don't typically perform in, all that's going to happen is you're going to wake up in 5 years, perhaps, and not even understand the words that you're saying. You're going to look at yourself in the mirror, not recognize the clothes that you're wearing. You're going to hear a recording of a soundbite that you said on a show like this, and you won't recognize what you said because you've become someone else for somebody else, you know? And so what I'd say to that is, if you're in an environment where you can't be yourself, as not facetiously, but that's not where you should be. If you're in a culture of toleration, you should not be there, you know? And it's about valuing yourself enough to know that I need to be me for me, because that's what makes me happy, right? Stop making everybody else happy because you feel you need to perform. If you're not intrinsically fulfilled from within, because you've not fed your inherent needs, or whatever need states you have, whether it's a feeling of belonging or XYZ, you need to see to that. And you have to see to that first. So my recommendation to any young folks entering the workplace right now is find the right boss to work for, okay? It's not the logo. It's not the environment. I've worked in some of the biggest companies for the biggest logos, and I've realized that if anything, that the process and the culture in bigger organizations is 10 times worse than the smaller guys. They actually don't know much, you know? And I don't mean that, again, to sound facetious or to be abrasive or contrarian in any way, but it's just that's my truth. It's what I've experienced having been in the big shops, where it's funny, as a child, you're taught to be different. You're taught to see the magic in the world, right, and to embrace individuality and to embrace the sense of uniqueness, where you do say to people, I am different. I'm not a cookie cutter, like, kind of approach towards, like, I am a different individual and I am special. I am kind. I am beautiful. I am successful. And we raise our kids, and I've just had a son as well, like last year, and this is how I'm raising him, to value his traits and inherent qualities, but this is what happens in the workplace, in my opinion. 16, 20, 25 years pass, you get into the workplace, and then you do behave, not differently, but you speak your truth. You are yourself. You do display these inherent, like, traits of individuality and what you believe to be amazing and different and quality. And then the first thing that happens is someone will turn around to you and say, who do you think you are? You think you're special? You think you're different? And it's like, well, yeah. And I don't want to say that with a sense of arrogance, but with a sense of humility. And that we talk about marketing to individuals, but then we do all these mass marketing campaigns to like big groups. And then we wonder why campaigns don't work. And then we criticize ourselves for not being individuals. And it's just it's just a farce sometimes, in my opinion, you know? And
so let's go a little further with you on this, because I know from your LinkedIn description that you put it out there. You value integrity and having a social conscience.
Yes.
Has that ever got you in trouble?
Absolutely, all the time. I'll be the first person to tell you that. It's I feel perhaps that sometimes, and we're all guilty of this, we would all rather have little white lies told to us to validate whatever feelings of insecurity we might be feeling, perhaps, right? So it's like when somebody asks you, hey, do I look good in this outfit? I'll tell you straight up if you don't, because I don't want to lie to you, you know? I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lie to you, you know? And I think that's the one thing that I value the most about myself, and that I've been told, even from my wife to my partners, is that, Sean, you don't lie, you know? At the point of hurting people, perhaps, with the brutal sincerity, we appreciate the candor. We appreciate the way that you're able just to cut to the chase. And I value that, you know? It's like when I talk, yes means yes, no means no, maybe means maybe. I don't play games where it's like, yeah, I'll see you soon. I'm sorry, when is soon? That's between Tuesday and Thursday. Like, why would you even make such a remark, you know?
Right.
So it's about, again, be sincere in the way that you talk, because there's nothing wrong with being candid, and there's nothing wrong with speaking your truth. If anything, you will gain respect from people because they'll know you will never lie to them, which is how you can demonstrate I have integrity, right?
Right.
I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to be the guy who gets up on a trade show in front of 1,000 people and puts a deck up behind him with all of these bullshit vanity metric numbers on there talking about impressions, impressions, impressions. Who bloody cares about impressions? I care about bottom line engagement, money and pocket conversion. So why don't we talk about that for 2 minutes instead of selling, selling, selling? Guys, stop selling, start helping, and you might see things change perhaps, right? And that's my whole approach on every panel that I do or talk or conference. It's like, guys, let's just cut through the shit and keep it real, you know?
Or as on the occasion, you're an audience member too. I bet you're that guy who asked the question of the speaker to say what's behind those vanity metrics. I love it.
Absolutely. Ask the why. Like one thing I love about data is the data tells you how, but it won't tell you why, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I can look at a data subset and it'll tell me that 70% of my users clicked on a green button, but it won't tell me why, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that why is the deeper thing that we need to all search for. Like it's root cause analyses. It's drilling down to the bottom to understand what drives behavior. And now I'm encroaching into like Simon Sinek territory with this whole like why, like the reason for being, you know? And I truly subscribe to that level of thought, and that if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, then what the hell are you doing and why are you doing it? You know, it's a dichotomy in itself. So I feel like I'm digressing now, John. So
No, I'm with you. Talking to a qualitative researcher
yes.
myself, so for sure. But there is this temptation, as you've touched on, and I hope we can maybe say something that would maybe get some folks to give their head a shake a little bit. And it is this idea of maybe trying to be predictable, trying to show people what to expect by creating your quote unquote personal brand. And I cannot tell you how often I hear these two words together, Sean, and how it makes me cringe. Personal brand. Yeah. I can see how celebrities and how high profile people around which many hundreds of lives depend for income, how they have to be certainly attuned to their personal brand and pay attention to it. But does a junior account manager need a brand? Does a research assistant need a personal brand? And isn't the very act of creating or manufacturing a brand for oneself in itself inauthentic?
I couldn't have said it better. I think you've kind of answered the question in itself, and it's a great question, very astute point. The second that I hear even the term personal brand, it makes me ask, well, who the heck are you in private? You know, like it's the term personal, like remove personal and just call it brand. You know, it's who you are. Mm-hmm. And this is where I feel that we've become a little too enveloped in this like marketing speak and language where we take ourselves a little too seriously. And I feel like everyone in the industry is guilty of that in marketing and advertising, where I'll be the first to say that, look, I'm an anti-marketer. Like that's the way I've labeled myself over the past couple of years as well. It's like, I see myself as like the Deadpool of marketing, you know? It's like, I'm not gonna band up with the X-Men and do the conventional stuff. I'm gonna be the guy who sits on the side. If the planet's coming to an end, I'll be there to save it together and we'll be heroes, you know? But I'm the anti-hero, and that I'm there to help, but not just for the sake of helping to be a hero, just to have these colors. And you know, it's just I refuse to play the game sometimes, and that's the thing. Like, you need to pivot and play your own game if you want to truly find that independence and freedom. So back to your question at hand as well, I find there's a lot of embellishment, you know, with facts sometimes, right? Where it's people don't present the truth, or they're not presenting themselves. And we all do it. It's like the first time you probably met your partner, you know, and you went on your first date. Like we go a little above and beyond to project the best images of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Like, I have no problem with that. That doesn't make you inauthentic. If anything, that just shows me you're a little nervous, you know, or you're just trying too hard. And I can understand that, because I've been in that position, right? I can empathize with how you feel right now. But what I'm trying to teach a lot of my students now, especially at Seneca, where I've started teaching now, is that you don't need to embellish and quote unquote, apologies, I speak very candidly, but you never need to bullshit, okay? For like, when in doubt, never lie. Just hold your hands up. I don't know, or it's XYZ, and don't pretend, because if you lose my trust, I'll work with you once, but I'll never work with you again. And that's called lifetime value, right? Yep. It's about repeat business. It's like the key to success, in my opinion, as well, in this universe. It's not about making it. It's about keeping it, right? It's not getting to the top of the mountain. It's staying on top of the mountain.
Right.
And I think that's where we all get it wrong sometimes. And then we over embellish, we push a little too hard, and then you lose everything, right? And I feel that's where you need to sustain a steady balance in life as well, where it's not pushing too hard, but it's also not trying either, because at some basic level, you must unfortunately market yourself. You must present a personal brand, as much as I dislike the term, because it's unfortunately what people subscribe to, you know, like you study like behavioral science and marketing and all this stuff. And like, you'll know, we judge people within the first 7 seconds, you know? And I will attribute like your success as an individual to your smile, for example, to the whiteness of your teeth. That's how judgmental we are as individuals. Sure. So it's like, yes, do work on your personal brand if you need to in terms of image and looks and language, but just don't fake it, you know? If anything, take what you have and amplify it. But you don't need to change to become something else. Adapt by all means, because it's adapt or die, but don't pretend to be something that you're not, because then you will suffer with other things like imposter syndrome, which won't actually be a syndrome. It'll be real because you're a faker, not someone real. Right. So sorry, I went around the houses there, but that's just what my thoughts are about personal branding. It's like, just drop the labels, just be yourself.
So Sean, what advice would you have for someone who is trying to figure out their core values? You know, what exercises or questions could they ask themselves to, you know, really get to your version of integrity and having a social conscience?
Great question. There is no universal answer, in my opinion. All I can offer is some perspective here, where one of the key things that I always ask myself is, it's not a case of what you want to do or who you want to be or become. You know, it's that age-old question that's asked of children. Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I don't subscribe to that model of thought. And it's such a loaded question that actually doesn't yield anything positive. Whereas the question that I feel is of more value is, what are the challenges that you wish to solve in this world? And who do you wish to solve them with? Mm-hmm. And when, and where, and how, and why, you know? And I feel this question in itself just inspires you to think different, you know? And we need to ask ourselves better questions, as I feel we all do in life, perhaps, to improve the quality of life and to improve the quality of thought and vision and perspective that we all have. So one little thing that I learned as well, even in the way that we ask questions to inspire greater engagement, for example, is that if you're in a work context, I'm digressing here slightly, but it's the key question that I learned to ask as well is, and this is a Google bit of research that they found out, but instead of asking somebody, for example, what do you think the answer is, or what do you think we should do in a business meeting, for example, mm-hmm. Say you're with a junior designer, and it's like, what do you think we should do? And there's 10 other people sat around the table. 9 out of 10 times, when you ask that question like that, you will get no responses from anybody. Because people don't like the way you phrase the question, because it's pressure on that person to perform. It's like, what specific do you individually think us need to do? Definitive answer. And then the designer sat there like, oh my God, I'm under so much pressure. I need to give a right answer. I'm going to get judged. And if I give the wrong answer, oh my God, and nothing. Freeze, room is silent. And I'm sure we've all been in those meetings where it's like, hey guys, what does everyone think? And crickets, right? You've asked the wrong question. If you instead ask the question, hey guys, how might we make this better together, perhaps, right?
Right.
Immediately asking, what do you think, as opposed to how might we improve this together, perhaps? Now, immediately it's like how, it's perhaps, it's a suggestive as opposed to a definitive. Might we, together, collective, there's no pressure on you to perform, but we will do this together. And then sticking the perhaps at the end as well, it's like, it's a supposition. It's not definitive again, you know? It's like, it's a maybe. And then pressure is alleviated from the person to respond, and then they give the right answer that they need to give, or give the answer that they feel they want to give without the pressure of having to perform and being judged for being wrong. So bringing this back to what you're asking, it's just asking yourself better questions, or learning to ask better questions. And you might find that even by asking yourself better questions, you might reframe your perspective and the way that you think about things, and you might come up with a different solution.
You give great advice, Sean. Your students are lucky. Let's close by catching me up on what you're doing right now. You're involved in an international online program at Seneca, and they're lucky to have a genuine esports expert on their advisory committee and teaching in the program. Say more about what's going on there.
Firstly, you're too kind. You're making me blush. Let's start. I approached Seneca a couple of years ago, and they approached me. It's kind of a mutual conversation that we began having, and we formed an advisory committee with a select group of leaders across Toronto from the esports space to see how we could better bridge the gap between business and academia, especially in the esports sector. Because one of the frustrations that I've had as well is that I will get into too many classes being taught by too many people who have zero industry experience. And it's like, well, why the heck am I paying for a student to come and learn something that I could have read in a book, you know? I want to learn it from someone who's actually done it. And that's the biggest thing my father always taught me as well. He's like, if there's a book or a person, you always ask the person, because they can show you things that a book can't tell you, you know? Right. And like the person can actually tell you, don't step on that thing because that's going to like damage you, jump over it perhaps. And you need to learn experientially is what I find, but also you can learn from the experience of others. You don't need to make the same mistakes yourself. And that's how you can accelerate quickly, okay? And so the purpose of the program as well is it's to teach the business of esports. It's not, you're not signing up to this course to learn how to be an influencer. If you want to do that, buy a camera, get a Twitch account and just start streaming and see how you can make it, okay? And speak to some cool people and just be inspired, and you'll find your way. Like, trust me, you will. It's just about hard work, commitment. Do it and don't give up, and I promise you, you will make it. You will be successful. Just work your ass off and just be a hard worker. Yep. What we're trying to teach, however, is it's the business of esports. It's how do you put sponsorship packages together for publishers in order to be able to sell an esports property, which is where the esports players play down here. So it's the system and the game and the platform behind everything that happens in the stadiums with everyone winning $1 million prize pools. Well, how do you actually get there? We'll teach you how. How do you actually market something? How do you launch a campaign? How do you even market an esports program? How do you do media buying and planning for this industry, you know? It's like if you're running a Facebook ad, for example, you do understand that half your demographic doesn't even live on Facebook. Let me tell you about something called TikTok. Let me tell you about the channels to market to the people where they actually are, like fish where the fish are, basically. So please come and check it out. Come and take a look. Like, take a look at the seminar. Give me a shout on LinkedIn. You know, I'm the kind of guy as well. Just say, hey Sean, let's grab a beer together. Let's go and shoot the shit. I want to learn more, and I will always give you my time. Right? It's the one thing that I received from some awesome executives back in the day. Quick shout out to Virgil and Vikas, like two of my OGs, like amazing guys who gave me a great opportunity. And without guys like that giving me their time and laughing at me and saying, Sean, if you ever want to pay us back, you pay it forward and you give the same opportunities back to your community. That's how you make us happy. I promised them that I would do that one day, and I'm doing it now. So it's not just in the esports space, but with my own company, I'm hiring people on, you know, on living wages, because I don't believe in minimum wage kind of stuff. It's about giving people the opportunity to succeed and paying it back forward again. So now that I'm in a position to help, I want to help, and all I'm asking is, hey, how can I help? And if you want to join me, let's kick some ass together, you know?
Sean, you're on the leading edge, and I love hearing those kinds of stories of giving it back and paying it forward. With that, I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. And you can, as Sean just invited you, you can connect with Sean Karoonian on LinkedIn, but be prepared for him to actually engage with your content. Sean, thank you very much.
John, I appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.